Welcome to the first ever playoff preview episode of the Kennel.
Yeah.
A Cleveland football podcast. Stevie James G. Entrada. Like on YouTube, subscribe, comments, rate 5 stars on other places, and follow.
Football Kennel at Football Kennel.
That's
the
right.
Kennel Football Podcast.
That's right.
The Kennel, a Cleveland playoff
Football Browns podcast. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Twitter, Instagram.
Real hot.
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram at Football Kennel. We coming at you a little late this week. We wanted to see where all this crazy COVID stuff landed and just have an idea of who was actually going to be able to play in this game so we could properly predict it. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of busy and slacking a little there.
Lots
but it works out. But
Lots
it works out nicely.
We have the preview of the breakdown of the COVID madness. We have the game. We have the quick predicts. We have a good show coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
144.
And we feel great. Do not despair, Browns fans.
It took 144 episodes before we saw our first playoff game as a podcast, which isn't much in the grand scheme of Browns football.
Well,
really,
yeah, it only
think
took,
about it.
Yeah, it only took 18 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There are people that didn't have kids and now have kids that are like in their late teens.
Mm-hmm. Weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the playoff drought is of legal age, 18 years old.
That's hilarious.
So the playoff drought can, well, you have to be 21 to buy cigarettes now.
Can go to the military.
Okay, military. I was going to say, can you do anything
vote,
at 18?
right?
Oh, yeah, right.
You can vote.
Military and vote. I'm
you
sitting there, beer, cigarettes, you can't do anything when you're 18 anymore.
Nothing fun happens when you're 18
shit.
anymore.
All right, without further ado, let's break this game down.
Game preview. 180. What's up?
Game preview, the Browns heading over to Pittsburgh, facing the Pittsburgh Steelers for a third time now this season, but this time for all the marbles. Win or go home. The playoff game, the wild card weekend. We get the primetime slot, which is fun.
Last game of wild card weekend.
Last game of the wild card weekend,
Sunday
and it gave
night.
us plenty of time for guys to recover and for us to actually practice. We'll get into that. How do you want to start this off? Do you want to go into injury report, COVID madness, or just start COVID right at the gate, or I don't.
Well, first I need to mention that we're wearing white jerseys and orange pants.
So that's the most important thing for moving forward.
Which I think is the last time we beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, like 100 years ago. We were wearing white jerseys and orange pants.
Nice. So it all comes full circle.
Yes,
okay.
so that's good. But, yeah, I mean, I think everyone who's been kind of following along, we barely practiced last week. This week we practiced for the first time.
We practiced for an hour last week.
Yeah, an hour
that's
last
it.
week. Yep, and then this week the first time on Friday, and then today, with today being Saturday, did a walkthrough for the game tomorrow. So that's been going on.
They're going to fly instead of take a bus to allow for more space between people.
And
so that's smart.
Faster in theory, I would assume.
Yeah, so obviously, like Stevie said, you guys by now know the COVID madness that has been going on really for the past 2, maybe 3 weeks now, really, if you go as far back as the Jets and what happened from before the Jets game with all the wide receivers being out and stuff. But now we got a combination of coaches and players to either test positive or be deemed close contact. So we'll go to the confirmed out right now due to COVID. That's going to be Joel Bitonio, longest tenured Brown, heartbreaker there, his first playoff game, enduring what he's endured,
Yes,
not
fair.
being able to play. Just super sad. Kadero Hodge out as well. Denzel Ward, we found out for sure today after speaking to Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski spoke to the media.
After we spoke to him.
He called into the show. When we were prepping
forgot
the
to hit
document.
record though. Damn it!
Damn,
but trust us.
That was another fault. It was my fault again.
But we
I forgot
talked.
to record.
But we talked.
Anyways, we talked to him and he let us know that Denzel Ward's not going to make the cutoff, and neither is Kevin Johnson, which would have been his replacement. So that's tough there. Speaking of cornerbacks, it looks like so far questionable Terrence Mitchell due to a non-illness designation.
A non-injury,
non-illness. So he didn't really elaborate on it, but it's just a concern because it could look like our top 3 cornerbacks are out.
Yeah, and if you include, I know he hasn't played this year, but if you include Greedy, that's our top 4 cornerbacks. And Money Mitchell's been nice this year, and the Steelers conveniently have like 5 receivers that are capable of catching passes. So it's going to be really cool.
And then worse news is Jack Conklin. He's also questionable with an illness. If you remember, Jedrick Wills had the illness designation. Looked like he was going to play against the Jets, and then ended up being sat because of the illness. So from what I was reading, if it's flu-like symptoms but you're testing negative, you have to have no symptoms and then have within 24-hour time span, 2 consecutive negative tests. So that's why I would say Jack Conklin is a big question mark there. We're not sure what's going to happen. His symptoms could turn if he has no symptoms and then test negative. He'll be in the game, but as of right now, he's questionable and a big concern.
Which is fun because obviously we lost Chris Hubbard earlier in the season, and then the
He's
other
out
backup.
For or I guess late in the season because we lost him like week 16.
Yeah, and then Kendall Lamb, his replacement, is
also out.
He's out too. So if
we're down to nobodies, we had to sign a bunch of nobodies from practice squads and from free agency.
Well, at left guard, because Nick Harris, our backup
Also
center and
out.
guard, is out. So at left
IR.
guard, we're starting Michael Dunn.
Yeah.
You know anything about him?
No, nothing. We also
Yeah.
picked up Alex Taylor, and we signed like this backup guard center that we've had, I guess, on the Browns 3 other times before. Alex something, Viviziano, some Italian guy. I didn't get his name.
That's okay.
But it was earlier in the week. Either way, we're doing whatever we can to fill the position it's thin. Our O-line is thin, and it's concerning because Pro Football Focus, when they're all together, actually rated our O-line the best O-line for the 2020 season.
In football, the best.
Wouldn't it? Of course, we have the best O-line, and COVID runs ransack. Because that's really the reason. The reason we don't have our backups is because they're hurt. But the reason we don't have our main players, Bitonio and Jack Conklin, is because of COVID regulations. Because
I thought Conklin has some kind of he's an illness.
He's an illness, so he has
yeah.
flu-like symptoms. So he has to get rid of the symptoms and then test negative twice within 24 hours for them to be like, okay, you can play. Otherwise, it's still deemed like COVID caution. Like they can't, they can't say it's not COVID. They could just say it's false negatives because he has symptoms.
Yeah, so all 3 of our backups are hurt, and now 2 of our one starter confirmed out with COVID, and then potentially Conklin as well.
Yeah.
And he was first team All-Pro along with Myles Garrett.
Right.
So that, and I have no idea who would play right tackle in his place.
Yeah, and then you mentioned it too is the one practice leading up to a playoff game after already having limited practice time the week before.
But don't worry, all of our coaches will be there on the sideline to. Oh wait.
Oops. Turns out. No, we lost 5 positional coaches along with our head coach Kevin Stefanski and play caller. He's out, and the NFL as up until this point, and apparently there are still conversations, so this could change. Up until this point, when we're recording this right now at about 2 o'clock on Saturday, they have not amended that rule to allow for remote coaching. So Kevin Stefanski can talk to either like 90 minutes before Mike we'll get into who's going to be the head coach, but the acting head coach in his press conference said he didn't know yet, but it's going to be like 90 minutes before kickoff or up to kickoff. He can talk to the players, but after that there's an electronic device cutoff, so they can't isolate him in a booth. None of that. They won't amend the rule, which it just seems ridiculous to me that they. All things considered this season.
They never even considered this.
That's the only thing that they kept, they didn't amend the rules on. But anyways, so he's out, Kevin Stefanski out, and luckily having the stable and genius coach that we do, they had a contingency plan in place all the way back to like spring training set up for if anything like this were to happen. So they have people filling in places. It's basically next man up mentality, just like the players. We have special teams coach Mike Prefer. Mike Prefer. I can't say names even after being told the name correctly.
Yeah,
so it's not like it's a personal thing. Anyways, you guys know if you've been watching us long enough. So he's acting head coach, and then we have Alex Van Pelt. That one's easier. Alex Van Pelt, our OC, he's going to be the play caller for the game.
Which, this makes sense. So you have the special teams coordinator stepping in as head coach, and they've had this at a contingency plan, so it's not totally out of nowhere. And on like a positive note, we found out Kevin Stefanski wasn't going to be able to coach at the game pretty early in the week, so it wasn't like we found out today, and it's like, shit.
And he's still, up to this point, Mike mentioned it in his press conference. He's still been leading the charge on like the head coaching responsibilities. So remotely, they were already doing remote meetings before this anyways. Like this was all set up in place so that players and coaches could acclimate to this way before our first playoff week.
Yeah, in Pryfer's now I'm gonna screw up his name. Whatever. Mike Prefer, he's
that's my fault.
the special team coach, so he has the most interaction with like everyone across the roster outside of like the head coach. So he's in a good position to be the head coach. And then having Alex Van Pelt calling the plays, yeah, that's a little different as far as the ebb and the flow, but like you script a lot of this stuff and it's plays that have been practiced, and he's been the offensive coordinator all year. And from what Stefanski has said, what Van Pelt has said, they've been on the same page with everything they've been doing.
Sure.
So we're not just bringing in...
Nobody's.
Yeah, it's not like the tight ends coach calling plays, or wasn't that what Freddie Kitchens was? When he came in and started
he was
calling
QB
plays?
tight ends, I think.
Something like that. So I mean, I'm not so worried about play calling. I think
we're wild card weekend. I'm done. I haven't thought about Freddie Kitchens.
I know, right? Yeah. I just think play calling gets like way overblown, that it's like this mystical, magical thing. Sure. What matters is the plays themselves, having the good plays and the good players that know how to execute those plays. That's what's most important.
I think to me the more glaring issue here, I mean, Kevin Stefanski's a big one because he's the key in all of this. He's been the key in the consistency train, if you will. But I get it.
He saved us.
Yeah, right. He saved it. That's a very great way to put it.
Yeah, he's Jesus.
But besides, on top of that, it's the players that are more concerning to me, and just the not practicing, not being able to instill these actually on the field with reps, which I know there's nothing like game day reps, but still, I think that does matter. I think, unfortunately, there is a competitive advantage to the Steelers having all of this practice time, all of their coaches in place, and obviously they're a great organization. So, if
of course,
the tables have turned, I'm not sure it would have affected them as much, but I think it still would have affected them to a certain extent.
Well, of course, if practice didn't make you better and more prepared for the game, then no teams would practice.
Sure.
This is a hyper-competitive league where everyone wants to win, so if there was an advantage to not practicing all week, teams wouldn't practice all week.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, you want to keep your guys fresh, but like you need the reps. You got to instill the offense, and we can do a lot of that, install the offense, do a lot of that virtually, obviously, going over the film, going over the reps, but actually practicing those reps.
Executing on the field is huge.
I think that goes a long way. So it's tough, but I agree with you where I'm less concerned about the coaching staff. I mean, my only concern is just game management from Mike Prefer.
Yeah.
Is Kevin Stefanski's like the first competent head coach we've had ever, where he like calls timeouts where it makes sense, or when a quarter's closing down,
he's had one or two instances of like situational rookie head coach mistakes,
but very few and far between.
Right.
He's been phenomenal, especially what we've dealt with. Even little stuff like I was saying, like if the first quarter's coming to a close, getting the offense out there to hurry up and do some hard counts and try to draw the defense out, like simple things like that.
Yeah,
that
and talking about
communicating
between the guy upstairs, the guy in the booth that's telling you challenge this or don't challenge this, and then making the determination to actually challenge it, maybe go against what he recommended. So all of these things that Kevin Stefanski does on the fly on game day on the field,
are big. But so looking at some of the players, we do some good news.
Some of the good news, yes.
The good news, and this is big because obviously we lost Kadarrell Hodge, but we're going to get Donovan Peoples-Jones back. He cleared the concussion protocol, and he's been big. He hasn't, had a bunch of catches this year, but it seems like every catch he's made, it's kind of like Higgins. We say like, Higgins doesn't get an insane amount of catches, but it seems like everyone is like
pivotal. It's a game changer.
Yeah, it's such
almost.
A strong catch. So
sets the tone or something.
Yeah, Peoples-Jones has been the same thing where he's averaging like damn near 20 yards a catch. He's actually, according to Pro Football Focus, like one of the top 5 ranked rookie wide receivers, and that's with like kind of limited action, someone we've brought on slowly. So getting him back is huge because he's going to be our number 3 receiver. So he's someone, if he's feeling good, we're gonna see a lot. And speaking of receivers, our wide receiver coach Chad O'Shea is back. He's cleared from COVID protocol stuff. So
return to the team on Friday. So
he'll be there.
One coach back.
And he's a veteran coach, so having his presence there, especially when we're missing our offensive-minded head coach, you got your OC calling plays, having a guy like Chad O'Shea there, I think, in this situation goes a long way. Normally wouldn't even think about the wide receiver coach, but just with everything that's been going on, I think having him there goes a long way, which is nice. And then big.
This is a big one, yeah.
Yeah, big news on the defense, and this kind of came out of nowhere. We weren't sure of this. Ronnie Harrison had tested positive for COVID earlier in the week, but it turns out that test must have been a false positive because he's had several negative tests since then and he's asymptomatic and he's been cleared to return and play on Sunday. That's huge.
I'm not sure how to determine that. I don't know if they do like an A/B test on the actual positive test, or I don't know how that works, or if it is just like concurrent negative tests like right out the gate that kind of give it the idea of like, well, this is a false positive, because you would think that they probably do like 2 tests. When they test, they do 1 and 2, and then maybe they get 1 positive, 1 negative. I don't know. It's like the drug test. I'm not sure how it works. Because that's what they do with the drug test. They have an A sample and they have a B sample. And so because Josh Gordon a lot of the times he'd fail one, the other didn't, or like one's diluted. He would do a lot of things like that with the B sample and try to like overrule or appeal. That's the word I was looking for. But anyways, so Ronnie Harrison and this linebacker Montrell Meander.
Yeah, practice squad guy, no big deal. But
they turned out to be false positives. They're activated for the game. Yeah,
Ronnie Harrison back is huge. We were hoping to have Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Ronnie Harrison together for the first time since week 10, and you can make a pretty strong argument those are our 3 best defensive players.
Who?
Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and Ronnie Harrison, but we're not going to have Denzel Ward. So at least getting Ronnie Harrison back is big. The defense needs all the help it can get.
Well, more than just getting him, there's more.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Missing all the top corners, and now Olivier Vernon, who's out after popping his ACL or whatever it was.
He tore his Achilles.
Yeah, so all that.
So remember we were talking down here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So all that, any help we can get on defense whatsoever is going to go a long way. I mean, the Steelers haven't run the ball very well this year, but they do have a lot of really good receivers. And say what you want about Big Ben, but I mean, he's a good quarterback. He's a pain in the ass to have to deal with. So any help is good help.
And remember that when we first found out about Ronnie Harrison testing positive, that same day we got Andrew Sendejo back. So it looks like we got the safety room kind of back together there.
For what it's worth.
On the secondary, right? Sure. That was like, nobody wanted that trade, Andrew Sendejo, but then we lose Ronnie Harrison. Everyone was like, what the heck? But to be fair, Andrew Sendejo, as much as he throws his body around aimlessly,
he definitely tries his best.
And he was thrusted into this role that he wasn't supposed to be in. So the next man up. So on to the good. Continuing with the good news, we also got Malcolm Smith back, linebacker Malcolm Smith, our other starter for the linebackers.
Former Super Bowl MVP.
So we got Malcolm Smith back, and we got B.J. Goodson. Is that his name?
Did we get B.J. Goodson back?
Yeah, we got him way earlier. Did I not write that in here?
No.
Well, I didn't list him as one of the people that we lost because we lost him like last week.
Okay, yeah, he's activated. He was activated a couple days ago.
He was activated like Wednesday.
Okay, so that's very helpful too. I forgot about B.J. Goodson. There's so many.
Our 2 starting linebackers.
It's almost
are
like
back
we
in
had
place.
like some kind of COVID outbreak at the facility.
So many things happened.
I don't know.
And we got Harrison Bryant back, so tight end depth is back in place. So we got those 2 things are back in play. We're good there. This is the good news.
Yeah, and Malcolm Smith is big because he's, like I just said, he's Super Bowl MVP. He's got tons of playoff experience with the Seahawks, and obviously going into a playoff game, a road playoff game, that's very helpful to have someone like that. And he's one of the better linebackers in the NFL in pass coverage, which is always helpful. They have Eric Ebron, so having someone like him in the mix, I think, is good. And then B.J. Goodson has been, pretty much the leader of this defense, at least in the middle, as far as linebacker goes. He calls the play. He's had a pretty good season. So, and he's a bit of a veteran too. I think he's in his 5th year. So getting him back is helpful.
In other good news, Myles Garrett was at a press conference where he talked about feeling back to his old self. Back at least the one day they practiced, he said he was
flying all over the field, feeling great, and he's gonna do his best to wreak havoc against the Steelers. I don't know, man.
Maybe the odds aren't so stacked against us.
I don't know. I'm optimistic.
If we lose Jack Conklin,
that makes it harder.
That makes it real hard.
I suspect that's everything with like players and coaches and everything all over the place, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and the Steelers aren't going to have Joe Hayden because he's on the COVID list, so that's mildly helpful as well because he is their top corner. Say what you will about Joe Hayden.
Oh, that's sad for him too, man.
Yeah, playoffs facing his former team, So
yeah,
we have some
it's not his first playoff game.
No, but his first against the Browns.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. So we have some advantages there. I mean, that's kind of the.
Are you sure he's out?
Yes.
Yeah, he's that leaves Joe Hayden the remaining player as of Thursday. He will miss the playoff game, yeah, because of him testing positive. Yeah, he tested positive. Okay, yeah, he'll miss it.
So here's the thing. We have Wyatt Teller back on offense, which that's huge. You know, he's going to be there, so that's helpful. Obviously, you could argue this season. I mean,
he still has the ankle, but you know, if he played last week.
Well, according to Pro Football Focus, he's the highest rated offensive lineman and the second highest rated player in the NFL this season.
Who's the first?
Aaron Rodgers.
Nice.
Yeah, you can't really argue with that.
That's fair.
But Wyatt Teller's second. So having him back is definitely huge, and we talked about this, I think, last episode, where with this being a playoff game, it seems like the coaching staff very intentionally kept Nick Chubb fresh, Kareem Hunt fresh, and the Steelers, while they are the best in the NFL at generating pressure on the quarterback and sacking the quarterback, etc., they're not the best at stopping the run. They're still good at it. It's no easy task to run all over the Steelers. I think you have their stat in here somewhere. They're the worst at running the ball themselves, but as far as
horrible at that.
Defense, they're 11th in rushing yards allowed per game, 4.3 yards per carry, which is good for 13th. Whereas, from the passing side, they're third in passing yards allowed per game, first in sacks, first in quarterback hits, all that stuff. So,
and even with limited action, we averaged over 6 yards per carry on them last week.
So if this is the situation to pound the Chubb, pound Kareem Hunt crazy.
It's what I was saying last week for this reason.
Yeah,
and I'll just repeat it again. I mean, that's what we need to do.
Yeah, and your head coach is out. You've kept these guys fresh. This is why you keep them fresh.
Run the football.
This is it.
Run the football 100 million times.
The other advantage,
don't stop running
the other
football.
advantage we have is the Steelers aren't allowed to have any fans in the stadium, so they're not going to. It's not much of a home field advantage. It's their stadium,
they'll have fake
but
sound though. They'll pump sound into there.
Of course, but it's not the same kind of hostile environment that you typically be walking into.
Definitely not.
So I would suspect that we run the ball, especially Kevin Stefanski's out. You don't want to get too crazy. I wouldn't think. I don't know. Maybe we do, but I think this is a game where we buckle down and run the ball like crazy. My only concern is the defense doing enough to keep the Steelers in check enough to where they're not running away with the game to where we're forced to pass. But at the same time, believe in Baker Mayfield a lot. Tight end room is put back together. Some questions on the offensive line, and we know Baker doesn't always deal with pressure in the best way possible, but you still got Jarvis. You still have those options there. So, but I think really the key to this game, it's not going to be a game where we've had a lot of them where we pass to set up the run. I think this is a game where you have to run to set up the run, work in some play action, and really kill it.
To an extent. Now, I do have some concerns. I do think the play action, if the Steelers defense is great against the play action, they only allow a 63.9 QB rating against the play action, that's basically if we're running the football and that's going to be our basis for the game, that's going to be our bread and butter on the passing game. Is going to be try to execute those play action plays. But on where I will actually give us an advantage is our quarterback, Baker Mayfield. And the reason why is the Steelers defense actually, like you mentioned, they have a ridiculous amount of sacks. They have a ridiculous amount of quarterback hits. They lead in both categories. They actually average they have at least a sack in the last 73 straight games. And they blitz a shit ton. They blitz about 40% of the time, doing pressure on the quarterback about 33.8% of the time when they lead the league, and they're top 5 in both of those measures. But Baker Mayfield this season averaged 1.108 quarterback rating against against blitz and against pressure. He was one of the best quarterbacks this season.
How the turns tables
against pressure. So that's where I'll give us an advantage, is actually just allowing Baker Mayfield to be Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, we need quick passes. One thing I was doing some film study, and by doing some film study, I mean reading articles of people who did some film study. And one thing that was pointed out, which is valid and makes me a little concerned, is one of our most powerful play action plays is the rollout to the right or the left, either way. What the Steelers do against teams that like to do the rollout, including us, is they put an end, they do like a wide front where they have their 3 down linemen, and then they put their outside linebackers all the way to create this 5-person front. So when you roll out some type of way, they have a linebacker blitzing there. Now there's ways you can counter that. by obviously, pounding the run up the middle or rolling out opposite ways that you don't expect. But when we do those rollouts, especially if we play action to the right and then roll out to the left, the whole idea is that weak side linebacker is supposed to go with the play action. But if they maintain discipline, then they have a free path to the quarterback. And that's the situation where the Steelers do have a very disciplined defense. And
that's why they're one of the best against the play action.
That's why they will be maintaining the edges. So that does make me a little nervous. So I don't know how much of that we're going to see or if we should commit to it anyways. I think if we're able to, it all comes back to the run. If we're able to really get the running game going early, then that's what's going to create that off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, I want to
pulling him in.
I don't want to put so much of a focus on the play action. I just want to see Baker Mayfield handle the ball a little bit.
Maybe Baker throws it 50 times for 400 yards. I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Somebody mentioned that the last time we wore orange and white in that combination with Baker, he threw 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, that was against the Bengals.
Yeah.
When he had the epic comeback win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So the last time we wore white jersey, orange pants, Baker Mayfield threw 5 touchdowns in an epic comeback win against a divisional opponent. And the only other time we beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh, again, roughly 100 years ago, we were wearing white jerseys and orange pants.
Maybe a million years ago.
So I think that was the perfect jersey combination for this game.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm concerned about their pass rush. Obviously, they're getting a lot of their starters back. They got 4 sacks on us last week without some of their starters on the pass rush there. And they got 4 sacks, 8 quarterback hits on us against when we played them week 6. So obviously they can get to Baker. I just want to see Baker take care of the football, and I want to see him in some situations in the pocket making some clutch throws, which we know he's capable of doing. So that's where, I'll give us an advantage offensive to defensive. I think we really can overcome their pass rush. Baker's that type of quarterback. He's shown it all year that he can handle the pass rush and perform, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, it should be interesting. The Steelers are favored by 6, so it's Steelers -6. The over/under is 47.5.
That's about the advantage I would give them for us not having.
Yeah, a little less than a touchdown. Yep, and they are 12-4, 13-3, whatever the hell they are. So I mean, they're a good team. So nothing's 12-4. The 12-4 should beat them, right? Yeah, sounds good. Feels good.
Yeah, 12-4. Okay. Yeah, 12-4.
So they are a really good team. This is a significant test, and we've kind of broken down the game, I think, enough as far as I'm concerned. But I want to kind of talk about the emotional aspect of this. The Browns are in the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. We're going to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. If this is a game that we can pull out, first of all, if Baker Mayfield plays well and we win this game, Baker Mayfield is a legend. Just that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
I mean, this is
even if we lose and he plays really well.
About.
Yeah, even if we lose and he plays well, then he still deserves some credit there. This is a game where worst case scenario it has to be close. But aside from that, if we're able to win this game, going into the next week, we get everyone back from COVID, all of our coaches, our head coach, everyone's theoretically, depending on what happens in the game, is healthy, and we're rolling into the next week after overcoming as much adversity as you can while facing one of the best teams in the NFL. I like that. And what's interesting too, so if the Bills win today against the Colts, which by the time you guys are listening to this, you'll already know, but if the Bills win, then we're facing the Chiefs next week.
Yeah, because we're the lowest seed.
Yeah, so they'd be the number 1 team in arguably the NFL is who we'd be facing. Now, if Indiana wins, they'd be facing the Chiefs because they're the 7th seed. But Buffalo's up right now. I have a pretty strong feeling that Buffalo's going to win. So, but if we can get through this game, and there's so many implications here. If we can beat the Steelers on Sunday night, wild card football, last game of wild card weekend, after everything that's happened this week, not being able to practice, practicing one time last week, don't even have our head coach, missing a bunch of players, everybody's in and out, all this crazy bullshit, and we're able to go to Pittsburgh and win?
Absolute insanity.
Could you imagine?
Cleveland would be on fire.
And we're kind of playing with house money here because if we don't win, it's like, well, shit. Like
you thought you saw craziness earlier this week on the news?
Yeah.
Wait till the Browns win the playoff game against the Steelers on wild card.
I'm going to storm
Sunday
into
night.
First Energy Stadium and sit in Jimmy Haslam's desk.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Someone will.
That's
if not
right.
you, someone. I mean, it's going to be madness. Except we're going to be lifting him up.
That's right. Jimmy!
You know what I mean? Like cracking beers. I don't know. It's going to be, and then, while the city's on fire, so there will be no violence.
But no, this is
Just
huge.
again,
It's it's feeling more and more real, like as we talked about it. And I know tomorrow I'm gonna watch all the playoff games leading up to it, and like the first one I'm gonna be like, whew, Browns play tonight. Then like during the second game, I know it's gonna be like halftime during the second game, and I'm gonna be like,
panic.
The Browns are next. The Browns are next. The Browns are next.
Yeah.
But I will say I don't know. I feel very at peace right now. I'm not freaking out yet. I mean, I'm sure tomorrow things will change, but I feel very at peace. I feel a very odd, calm confidence. I think Kevin Stefanski's worn off on me, and I think like focused in Baker Mayfield and other leaders on the team like Jarvis and Myles, who are just ready to work. And even Joe Petonio, who can't play, it sucks, but he was like, I'm just a left guard. Like, it's team first. The Browns are a great team. We're going to be fine. Like, I don't know. It's just words, but man, I don't know. The more I've been like following it, earlier this week, I was feeling some despair. Some despair crept in with all the news.
Sure.
But as I sit here today, I feel good.
Good, man.
I feel good.
Glad you do.
What about you?
I think the mountain to climb is insurmountable. I think
Insurmountable.
Did I stumble? I think I just stumbled.
I kind of liked it though.
So I consider it a successful season, and I'm happy with what the Browns have moving forward. If they win, it would be the stuff of legends. You could write a movie about it tomorrow, and you could write a script and take it to a movie studio, and people would be like, no, that's
unbelievable,
pretty unrealistic. Very similar to the 2016 championship for the Cavs, right? So, but I just don't think it's possible against the organization that we're facing. If we were facing maybe a lesser NFL team, if it wasn't the Steelers with the history that they have, the consistency and stable structure that they have, and it would also be nice because of what their players are saying, just about how the Browns are still just the Browns and they don't care and blah, blah, blah. Specifically was Juju, but I'm sure a lot of players feel that way.
Yeah, Juju had said they're same like the Browns are the Browns or whatever.
They're just nameless gray faces is what he said. And he said the Browns are the Browns. They're the same Browns I've faced.
Not that we need extra motivation in a playoff game, but
it helps. It definitely helps. I mean, I don't think it's a possible scenario in my heart of hearts for the Browns to come out with a victory. It would be. Now, how do they do it? They commit to the run, they keep the ball safe, and defensively, they somehow, to be fair, the Browns are, where the Browns defense is good is short quick passes, and that's where the Steelers mainly have found their success. So, if we can eliminate passes over the top, big chunk plays from the Steelers offense, we definitely have an opportunity. Don't get me wrong. But do I think that's the likely outcome? No, I just think we have too many missing pieces. We saw what happens when we have a bunch of players out due to COVID, when we face the winless Jets. Yeah, or I think at that point they already had one win.
Yeah, they had just won the week before.
Yeah, so you see what I'm saying? Like, now it almost seems tenfold because of the amount of players and the coaches. It's like a lot is missing for us to be able to overcome the Steelers of all.
But not an entire position group.
For sure. Not almost at cornerback.
Shh.
Almost at cornerback.
Well, there's that. All right. Well, I feel great. I think I'm ready for
I'm excited.
It was getting a little dreary there.
I'm sorry. I'm excited for the game. I think I consider this a successful season. You just asked me my opinion on what I think is going to happen on the game. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm going to drink some water. Cheers.
All right. I think with that, let's get into the quick predicts. And this is our first ever playoff quick predicts session, and hopefully not the last one of the year. I feel good about it. So let's get into it.
Hopefully not the last one of many years. I'll say that.
Oh well. This guy.
I don't want to go back to, winless seasons. That's what I'm saying.
We're never going back to that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Hopefully next year we have more quick predicts for the playoffs, and this year too, and the year after that, and
Super
the year
Bowl
after
quick
that.
predicts.
That'd be great. I would love
Maybe
that.
this year.
Maybe. Totally possible.
All right,
you
quick
never
predicts.
know. Quick
Quick
predicts.
predicts.
Let's do it.
Quick predicts.
Hashtag Kennel Quick Predicts. Make sure you use the hashtag on Twitter if you want to follow along and participate with our Quick Predicts. It'll be easier for us to find your Quick Predicts and tag them on and shout you out the next episode. Or if you watch us on YouTube, we do post the Quick Predicts in the description, and you can go ahead and leave a comment with your Quick Predicts. You will also get a shout out and potentially some points. Potentially. We do give out points.
Now, that does happen.
That does happen every week. So here we go. We'll start off with the most important Quick Predict of our first playoff Kennel Quick Predicts. Myles, Garrett, sacks. Keep in mind, he mentioned he was feeling 100% out there during the practice.
And he loves sacking Ben Roethlisberger more than anyone else in the NFL. I'm going 3 sacks.
Big
Three
day.
sacks. I think, and my predictions will kind of allude to this, I think this is going to be a crazy game similar to the Ravens game that we played on Sunday night a few weeks ago. I know that didn't go our way, but I think this is going to be a wild game in which wild things will occur. So I'm going Myles Garrett, 3 sacks.
Beautiful. I'm not against it. I want a big day for him as well, and I think he will come out with 2 sacks. A duo day for him. 2 sacks for Myles Garrett.
All right, next one, CHUNT rushing yards. That's the combined rushing yards of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Again, I'm going with a lot of madness in this game. I think we run the ball early and often and have a great deal of success with it. I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Chubb has a career high for carries in this game. I'm going with 205 rushing yards.
Beautiful. I'm not against it. I'm going to go similar to my original prediction last week before I raised it. I'm going to go with 156 combined CHUNT rushing yards, a big rushing day.
All right, next one, Baker Mayfield turnovers. He's been protecting the ball extremely well. Obviously had the fumble issue a couple weeks ago with a few fumbles, but by and large, only 8 interceptions on the season. He's done a great job protecting the football. So how many turnovers is he going to have in this game against the NFL's number 1 pressuring defense that there is?
I'm going to go with 1. I think he has probably the lone interception or lone fumble of the game just because this defense is tough. They'll bring the pressure, and they're great at specifically causing interceptions.
Yeah, I think this defense is definitely tough, and I think there's I just really think this game's going to be an emotional roller coaster. I think there's going to be highs. I think there's going to be lows, and this is going to be one of the lows of the game, but it's going to open the door for Baker Mayfield to overcome adversity in only the way that Baker Mayfield can.
When he's the underdog.
And lead to 100 touchdowns.
Jesus.
Okay, well, that's a little unrealistic.
Good thing that's not a quick predict, because you would have lost.
Yeah, maybe.
Next quick predict, Big Ben passing yards. We all know the big guy is capable of slinging it.
And our secondary is decimated.
So who or what will he achieve in the passing game? I'm going to go with 342 passing yards. A big game. It's a big game. It's an important game. Big Ben is capable of it, and he's been there before. So he's going to deke and dunk us for 342 yards.
Yep, he led the NFL in pass attempts. They're going to continue to do that. They have not had a lot of success running the ball. I think we'll still be solid against the run, and they're going to pass a lot. I also think the Browns are going to be moving the ball and scoring a lot, so they're going to be forced to pass the ball a lot, and our secondary is decimated. They have a lot of good receivers. We gave up over 300 yards to Mason Rudolph last week. I think Big Ben has a big game, 385 yards.
Big game for sure. And then the final quick predict, and probably the second most important one, potentially, but maybe this time it's this quick predict. This one's kind of like the most important one. It's a big one. But anyways, the final score for wild card Sunday night primetime game, Browns at Steelers. You go ahead. Or should I go ahead because it's the -1?
Really quick breaking news, sorry.
Oh, no shit. Don't break me.
No, it's good breaking news. Starting cornerback Terrence Mitchell was held out of practice Friday because of a possible false positive. He's negative now and expected to face the Steelers.
Dear Jesus Christ. Okay,
so
good.
getting Money Mitch back. That's helpful.
We got Mitchell back.
That is very helpful. So random breaking news. I'm sorry. Did you say what your score was? I was reading that.
No. I was gonna say, should I go first because I'm the bad one?
You can go first.
So I'm as I might have alluded to earlier when I gave my thoughts for the game. I think the Browns will not be able to overcome this one. I think it's gonna be a tough loss, a heartbreaking loss. I think it's just more firewood good for the future, right? It's just more motivation for these guys to turn it around and bring it back and make a deep run in the future, continuing the consistency and what we've wanted from this organization this entire time. But unfortunately, I think the Browns lose. Browns 24, Steelers 28. Breaks my heart to say it, and I'll be happy to be wrong. I mean, elated. I just ecstatic to be wrong. But Browns 24, Steelers 28 is my prediction. Sorry, kill me on Twitter. That's fine. Go ahead. You disown me. My dad here, Stevie James, is going to disown me.
Yeah, well, you were saying all that stuff, and I thought you were going to be like, but it doesn't matter. No, and you just broke my heart all the way.
Sorry. Hey, man, I've been stuck to my convictions up to this point. I'm going to do it again. I've predicted losses before. I just want to be realistic. Mm-hmm. I want to be realistic to my friends and listeners, fans. They rely on me, to be honest.
Let it be known that in the Kennel's first ever playoff preview episode,
dude, if I'm wrong, you
predicted a loss.
I might predict us to lose for the rest of my life if we win, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I'm predicting a loss too. Psych, motherfucker! The Browns by 30.
Ouch.
I'm kidding. So my actual prediction is Browns 35, Steelers 31. I think we have a wild, crazy shootout full of emotions and emotional roller coasters. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns won by 50. But realistically, I think it is going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be absolutely insane. We may all have heart attacks and pass away by the end of it. Might need new pants halfway through. I'm not sure.
All the options are on the table.
But I think it's going to be insane. I think this is the moment Baker Mayfield was born.
We've all been waiting for it.
He was born for this moment. Backs against the wall. Incredible underdog story. Need I remind you about the cardiac kids in the 1980s? The whole ethos of the Browns is winning in situations when we're not expected to win.
For sure.
And I think this time, and we owe this against the Steelers.
That the 90s?
Cardiac Kids was in 1980.
80s.
The year 1980 is when it was the actual season of the Cardiac Kids.
Yeah, that's right, old timers. I got the year right.
That's right.
At least at first.
I think we owe this to the Steelers. They're a team that's been struggling and trending downward, and we're a team that who knows what the hell could happen. And we're playing with house money here. We have nothing to lose. I don't think we're going to play this game conservative or scared or anything like that. And we're going to come out aggressive, and we're going to be rewarded for it, and we're going to win 35-31 Browns.
Love it. I'm not against it. I want the Browns to win, of course. And I would, like I said, I'd be happily surprised to, and be wrong, for the Browns to come out with victory.
Well, they're gonna.
Well, here we go.
They're definitely gonna. So, thanks for listening, guys. This is going to be a very exciting time. Sunday Night Football. Can't wait. Make sure you subscribe, like, all that different stuff. Best thing you can do is just share the podcast with your friends on YouTube or whatever podcast app you like using. And we're going to get this W, no matter what Gian thinks.
Yeah, fuck it.
That's right.
No matter what I think. I hope I'm wrong.
That's right. Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Ha ha ha.